At IOI, we are dedicated to making our games more accessible by design. As we move forward in our accessibility journey, we aim to enhance our approach while maintaining our current workflows. While our upcoming titles may not be fully accessible yet, we are committed to continuous improvement. We invite everyone to prioritize accessibility in their designs and join us on this journey.
Thank you everyone for coming, and thank you to every of our special guests for sort of joining us for this month's accessibility IOI meeting. We just sort of wanted to sort of bring you in just to sort of get your perspective and hear your thoughts about sort of video games and sort of what you play and those kinds of things. So I guess the first is, can you sort of tell us about yourself?
Yeah, hello everyone. My name is Elisabeth, but I'm more known online under my gamer tag Arevia. I'm a disabled and chronically ill content creator from Norway, and I am can just jump right into why I call my chronically ill and disabled. It's because I am born with something called cerebral palsy, which is a small little brain injury you can get the first year of your life. And also, when I'm gotten older, gotten things like arthritis in my hands, and due to my cerebral palsy, I shake a lot and I have spasms and stuff like that can sometimes make it hard for me to game. I am not one of those people who get 100% barricaded out of gaming like a lot of blind people get. I can often play a game, but it's the level of pain I will experience while playing it, or if I can play it when I have a flare up, which is what we call it when you have a bad time with your illness. I also use a lot of accessibility. Mostly well known I use is the fact that I play games with my feet. So I play both games with a controller and my feet at the same time. So I use mostly then Xbox adaptive controller, but are trying to look into getting it for more consoles. And yeah, I mostly am a PC gamer.
So you've been playing games for a while then. Sort of what, I guess, because you mentioned, Pokemon Yellow being a sort of an early game, is what sort of got you
Yeah.
into games in the first place?
Yeah, I've been a gamer since I was little. My mom keeps telling me like this cute story of me going into the where we had like the cleaning equipment to get like a bucket to put it on a chair to play a PC game, and I played like this because I was so small. So I've been a gamer my whole life, and for me, being disabled, gaming had a lot to do with like getting the feeling of mastering something, because when I grew up, I did not know I was disabled. And the problem with that is that when you're a kid and you're in school, you are often, if you look healthy, you are assumed to should be able to do as everybody else. And I couldn't do that because of my small little brain injury, the little one there. So I ended up feeling a lot lost and couldn't like do as everybody else. So gaming for me was important growing up as a way of, yeah, feeling, just empowerment, feeling the fact that I could master something in my own terms, and so on and so on.
Yeah, no, that's great. So what kind of does a typical, I suppose, like gaming session look like for you? Is there any setup before? You mentioned, playing with the controller and with your feet. Do you have that always set up ready to go, or is this some sort of lead up time beforehand?
So for me, I always have it set up. I have it set up underneath my desk and connected to my PC, so it's just set ready to go, technically. I also use a bunch of the Steam Deck. I have seen if you can, for some reason, get my controller to do like an Xbox co-pilot. If somebody doesn't know how you do it, like if you have two controllers, we all know that if you could put two controllers into a game, they think it's player one and player two. So you need an extra program called Xbox Accessories where you say they're going to co-pilot. So then the Xbox accessory trick the PC to think it's only one controller being plugged in instead of two. So that is what I need when I do that. Which is why it can be a bit hard using a controller like on my Steam Deck, because then it looks at it at its own controller and won't let me use the Steam Deck functions. So for me, on my PC, since this is a setup, I use it every week because I stream and make content and I play a lot of games to test them for accessibility. This is just a setup I have, but I have time where I need to set things up if I move my system. Also, I always when I start a game, I need to check out some things because I can sometimes prefer having things that reduces input for me. So that God of War Ragnarok, I remember had this, was where you could just run over items to pick them up. Due to my hands, when it comes to arthritis, there's two things you shouldn't do: stay still or move. So if you stay still for too long, aka you don't use your hands, you're going to start having problems because you stiffen up. But if you use your hands too much, you're going to start having problems because you get inflations. So I need to find that balance in games where I use my hands, because that is a good thing. My doctor, actually, I'm really fan of the fact that I'm gaming. It helps my brain, it helps my hands, but it needs to be not too much. So then I always have to go in and see if there's things like take away quick time event, take away button mashing so I can hold instead of button mash, auto pickup and stuff like that, which is things I go in looking at. Again, I don't necessarily need it in the form of I can't play if I don't have it, but it's the difference between playing for 4 hours and playing for 10 minutes. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, no, that's really useful to know. So that sort of that initial flow for you for that game is that going through the settings to see what can help extend those times for you. So that's really interesting. So let's say, you know, and you find a game you're interested in, is there something you check first? Like, is it going to look at accessibility websites, checking what the companies said about it, or sort of like saying, trying to see what is available in the settings?
Yes. So I always check if the company have said anything, which sadly isn't so often, I find. Mostly because I feel a lot of companies can be a bit afraid of saying anything because they're afraid of saying anything wrong, which in my experience, the opposite is better. I would rather have the information than I know my own situation. So I just want the information out there, like give me just some pictures of the settings or just a list of what settings there is. If there is an easy mode or hard mode or things like that, let me know. And then I can take the consensus if I can play this game or not. One of the sad things with people like me who are disabled, there is something called a disability tax, which is technically just a means of saying that it's more expensive for me to live due to me having to have extra costs with like mobility aid, medicine, food I can eat. I can't work as much as anybody else. I can't pressure myself to like have long work days so I don't get as much pay. So buying a game is a bigger expense, where technically it isn't bigger, but it feels like a bigger expense for me. So if I can't play a game because I see online that this will just be too technical for me or too heavy on my hands, I don't get annoyed. I'm just like, oh, thanks for letting me know. But if I buy a game and then figure out I can't play it, I get annoyed. And then I get like, I get like a toddler or a teenager go like, oh, why didn't you think about me? And then like I lose, maybe we can call it goodwill with the company, because I'm just like, well, hello, I exist. So that's the difference. I prefer the honesty and openness. Like, rather just say we're not accessible, because then it's just like, okay, at least I'm not losing money or getting a note or getting my hopes up for wanting to play something. Then I just move on.
Yeah. Wow. No, that's really, really good to know. And sort of the being clear about it does help, because yeah, there's things we don't maybe consider, like saying that extra cost or how much a difference it can be for buying a game. And I guess in that sense, do you try to stick to single player games then, or do you play multiplayer games as well?
So yeah, I only play single player unless it is multiplayers, but not online. I don't do that. That is just a preference, nothing to do with my accessibility need or not. That is just a preference. I'm not an only child, but sometimes I act like one. No, but like I prefer just playing single player games, but it's nothing to do with accessibility. I have a lot of friends who are disabled, have problems gaming, but love multiplayer. So that has nothing to do with that. It's just what I prefer.
Yeah. No, that's great. So before you mentioned a little of like when you were going into the settings, changing things like toggles and holds, are there sort of common options that you tend to use and find them when playing games?
One more time.
As sort of like what the common options that you tend to need to change or find changing in games.
Looking for, yeah. So I need to have third-party controller support. That often is in the hardware, so that isn't that like it was a bigger problem before, but now often it is in the hardware, so it does not that much to say. But also, I need to be able to button remap. That is just because I also, due to my brain injury, I can if I strain my muscles too much, I can get paralyzed or semi-paralyzed in that arm or muscle for a time being. It's just reduced for some hours, but then it means that I need to have a different setup. So like then I need to have more buttons on my feet and stuff like that, or it's just a finger. So then I just tape up my fingers, the finger that I'm not supposed to move, I just tape it down with something. And then I need to then button remap so I'm able to do other things. So that is just a given to me. If it doesn't have button remap, most likely not the game I want to play, if it's not something I'm really looking forward to. And I am also a big fan of text and text size. So if you don't live with chronic illness, you might not know this, but we who live with chronic illness, we get something called brain fatigue or brain fog. And that is just the fact that due to always being in pain, you just sort of get tired. Just imagine having a flu, but it never goes away. You get a bit like in your whole body. It's the best way I can explain it. So I need to have information given to me in more than one place. So for me, it can be hard for me if I can't like read it or it doesn't get read out loud for me sometimes. I prefer having big text and also get some kind of reading in the game, depends on if the game does that. And also, since I have then reduced capacity, so my brain is a bit clogged up, I can't take that much information in. So I want to have easy to read, big text so that I don't need to stress with one more thing or like squint my eyes or like look really close, because then the thing is just that if every game I play will make me hurt or will make something worse for me, but it gives me so much fun playing a game, having fun. But if a game then is so hard for me to play that it doesn't give me anything back, then it's just not worth it and I will just close it down. I think, and also I am a big fan, like technically accessibility isn't easy mode. Easy mode isn't accessibility, but easy mode can be accessibility. Like for me, if a game has easy mode, that's always a good tick for me, because if I know I can change the hardness of the game in the middle of the game, that means that in a month I will have like 8 days I'm good, 8 days I'm bad, and at least 8 days I can't do anything. But then I know, okay, can I play this game for 8 days, 16 days, or like the whole month? And then if it has the possibility to, in the middle of the game, turn over to easy mode, then it's like, oh, cool. Then I can actually play it while I'm really, really ill as well. So then I will play that game more than say to something that I have to put down and only play the 8 days a month I have hand and brain power to do so.
Okay, so I guess touching a little bit on that, does then depending on, do you find that you're shifting like between games?
Yes.
Like depending on it, yeah.
Yeah, 100%. I shift between games, which is why I prefer when I have a game that has a lot of settings that I can customize while playing, because there are a lot of games who stop you from changing the difficulty throughout the gameplay. And I understand, I respect the fact that I believe that accessibility for once is to take down barriers, but I also understand that accessibility on the other side for you who make games are a way of making more people see the vision you had for your game. So, and I can understand that a vision for your game can have barriers that isn't able to fix for me. Like if, say, the typical, we all talk about it, Dark Souls, it's meant to be hard. And I can understand that they don't want to have easy mode. And I'm okay sort of with then that being not accessible for me. Though, am I going to say here that Dark Souls doesn't have things they can add. Of course, they have a lot of things I wish, like button mapping and control support and text size, like HUD size. There is a lot of other things they could have added. But if difficulty is a value you have and you don't want to change that because that is the core you guys as the designers and devs and everything have decided this should be, that is okay. But then that won't be a game for me. So I prefer then, because like I won't say that every game should have this, but if you have a way of changing difficulty, let us do it throughout the game. Don't lock us in the start, because at least I'm never going to start one normal gameplay and one easy mode gameplay and then have to play it for which day of the month. That it doesn't make sense for me.
Yeah. No, that's really good to know that it's sort of having free access to those is sort of is so crucial. So what's the most common thing you find that games are missing then?
Information.
Information.
It is information. It is actually sort of so basic and so complicated at the same time, but it is access to information. It's easy access to information. If that is either just on the page where you buy the game or on the page like in the game. Like if you have a settings menu, a lot of people, like I do reviewing of games, so I should know a lot of words. And I came over a game who used such a complicated language in their accessibility menu that even I, who review games for a hobby, couldn't understand what it said. So what I love is when then information is available outside the game, in the game, and in the game it is with having if you tick this box, what will actually happen? Have like a definition or an explanation on the side. Like if you say you tick off this, then you say you get a little cross in the middle of your screen to help you not get seasick. If you tick off this box, your mouse will go faster and it helps with this. Like, just tell me what it is. And because what I think often, and I find myself doing this all the time, is that we who are in the industry, we know a lot and we assume a lot of people does that, but the basic gamer are a mom or a dad coming home, the kids are finally asleep, I have 40 minutes before somebody's starting to scream to play. I want it simple, I want it easy, and I want to have fun. So just take away those barriers of information for us, so just it simplifies it.
Okay, and so I guess so it's not only just the information, I guess, about what things are doing, but just clear information like about what you need to do, like your task. Like, hey, if you have an objective to go get something, does it help having more information how to get there and what you're doing? Or
yes, so since I said I had brain fog, I also do sometimes get memory problems because the pain and just in general my life, it just gets too much and my brain just says no. Brain doesn't want to brain and all that jazz. So if I have a game and I play it and then it's complicated and then I come back to it a week later, I don't know where I am. I can't remember things like how to use the controllers. I can't remember where I am, what have happened in the story. So for me, having some sort of journal system, some way of looking it up, but it needs to be accessible in a way of like have show a picture of a controller and what every button do. That is so more accessible than a list. You can have both, but like having just a picture, it's so easier for people to just go, okay, press that, do that. And have like, this has happened. This is the next quest and stuff like that. Just like information. It can also, of course, be information overload. So it doesn't need to be, I don't necessarily know if it needs to be in the forefront all the time for everyone, but it can be something on the side for us who needs it to check up on it.
Okay, so
if that makes sense.
Yeah, so I guess it's more options to enable more things to give you that information.
Yeah, or like you don't have to have it the soon you press start, but it can be nice to have it in a tab. Because I can also understand that we need to have the golden line of what doesn't get annoying for somebody who's non-disabled. Like it gets annoying or it gets too much information, because that is also it's a hard line to walk, which is again comes in with have your playtesters ask them these questions. Is it easy to find the information? Is it easy to know what to do? Is it easy to, if you come into the game now, is it easy to understand sort of what have happened? And ask people. We hire a lot of consultants who talk about having memory problems and due to pain having brain fog and stuff like that. Ask them, how could you, if you play this, do you understand what you're supposed to do? It also, even I came over God of War Ragnarok. It's supposed to be one of the most accessible games, and I do believe it is. I played it with my fiance, who is 100% healthy, and I couldn't find out how to do a puzzle. And I gave him the controller, and he couldn't figure it out either, because the typical, sort of how when you walk to a something, you can sort of see what you can interact with, or you get some note like press this to pick it up or something. We didn't get anything. We ended up having to put on high contrast mode to get the items you can interact with highlighted to see where we're supposed to go. So it is sort of that thing of when you make the game, you know the answer. But for somebody who comes in blind, we do not know. It doesn't necessarily make sense because we don't have that information. And it's hard. I can understand it's hard, but then playtesting comes in and asking the community if this actually makes sense.
Yeah. Okay. So sort of touching again on the bit before of just communicating as much as you can with the community, just sort of being more open helps.
Yeah, and there is absolutely ways to get. There are ways you can ask, hey, can we get any disabled? We are looking for disabled beta tester, alpha testers, and this time we're looking for people who need visual accessibility, people who need cognitive accessibility, people who need motoric accessibility, and us who want to do that or in that, we know what you're asking for. And then because we are not allowed to ask for actually what their health problem is, but we're allowed to ask them to come to us, which is a big difference. But yeah, then you can have the say you want to have check if this are able to play if you're blind, then ask your community, hey, do we have any blind players who want to do beta test? Yeah.
Great. So in terms of like the current state of accessibility in games, how do you feel about that? Are we going in the right direction? Is there still things where big companies are failing at?
We are 100% going to the right direction. Like we are on the like step of going away from easy mode is accessibility. It's amazing. I even now when I get like people send me mail, they're like, these are the accessibility things and we have easy mode. And I'm just like, yeah, you have understood it. But we are going the right way, like 100%. But this is a big field. So like somebody asked me the other day, is VR accessible? And I was just like, depends of what you're asking. Is it accessible for somebody who's completely blind? No. Is it accessible for a friend of mine who cannot leave their bed? They only have 2 hours a day they're able to stand up. The rest of the day they need to lie flat. VR is the most accessible thing they've ever had in their whole life because then they can lay flat and game. So accessibility is such a broad term, which also makes it scary for a lot of people, that it's hard to like say like this game is 100% accessible. That doesn't exist. But in general, the industry is going the right way. We are like starting to ask the questions. We are doing more and more companies are starting to understand that nothing about us without us, which is a saying from the disability communities that says that don't make something or add something without hearing if this actually will help us. So absolutely going the correct way.
Yeah, amazing. And so have you played any of the recent Hitman games, I guess?
I did actually. I haven't played it now, but I did play it some years ago and it was fun. And I have never, like, I sounded like a sailor. I got so annoyed and it was so fun. Like, I couldn't make the people move where I wanted and it was so much fun. But it was, yeah, it is fun. And it is, have played it I think it's 3 years ago now. It's the last time I've tried it on stream.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Okay, and so I suppose because it's the idea of accessibility through design versus the accessibility through options. Were there things that were done well in Hitman versus things not done so well, that if you can remember? No worries if you can.
I can't remember, but it is the one thing I do like with it is the freedom of doing things a lot of different ways. I think one thing you're opening up to then is the cognitive thing there, where people's brain do work different ways. And a lot of times we have different ways to figure out the goal. And also, like, I preferred that whenever I did something, like I put on a new clothing or took up a new item, somebody told me that's a good idea. Now you should maybe try to do this. This is a good idea. Now you can try and sneak in there. Because then maybe information that I had been lost through conversation in the game in general, then I got that through that.
Okay, yeah. So just again confirming, I guess the changes and just reminding you what you can do.
Yeah, or like when it said like this opens up an area for you, or now you can enter the kitchen, or now you can enter the gym and stuff like that, makes it a lot easier. So yeah, and it also is the fact that one thing that can be about a bit annoying in games is if you have this corridor of thinking this is the way people are supposed to solve this, and then if you do something else, you get highly punished for it, which is what was fun with the Hitman games was that when me and my fiance and a friend played it, we all came to different conclusions how we are supposed to do this. So then you have two healthy people and me who came to three different conclusions, but none of them were wrong, which for me felt really good because I felt included. So I felt like, oh, but like, yeah, maybe I don't think and do the same as you other people, but I still are able to do it and have fun with it in my way.
Yeah. Okay, great. No, that's really good to know. Do you find that there's features that we as companies do wrong? So like if we take like input remapping, are there times that a company will implement input remapping but in the wrong way, so it's not as helpful for you?
Yes, we saw this with recent Final Fantasy 16, where the captions, I sadly can't remember directly what it was called, but captions was called something different. That just complicates things. It's used the terminology that we have. I understand the need of want to be creative, but understand where you should be creative or not. Is this actually being creative because it's going to help somebody, or is it just because we want to sound special? Doesn't necessarily need to do that, because us who need it, we are looking for. When I open up a menu, especially like games who have like Last of Us, who have just like a lot, like I know what I'm looking for. So I'm looking for these context cues, like I'm looking for words that I know would help me, because you can't go through 60 plus things, or somebody can, but it's boring. And I also think that doing those presets things some games have, like you can start, so it says like you can either quick start the game or you can go into the accessibility. And if you press the accessibility, it gives you, do you want to just use a preset or do you want to check it out, all of them? And a lot of time the preset, I just take motor accessibility and then I'm ready to go. Just makes it easier for me. I think also a lot of times if you want to be complicated in a game, do you want to be complicated because you want a complicated game, or is this just because it's fun to add? I see a lot of games using excessive amount of buttons, which just like makes it a lot harder for us who don't use traditional controller. Can you have a simple setup? Because if you have a button that does something in the menu and does something in the game, does that need to be two different buttons if they never will end up being in the same scenarios? Or can you both be one button? Things like that. Is there a way of setting up an easier setup? Games every year get more complicated and more realistic and stuff like that. So we sort of feel like we need to run with it and be complicated and realistic when a lot of things can be solved by just basic things. And I also think it's don't be afraid of copying. I see somebody see like, yeah, but this game did it, then we don't want to do that because they did it. But it's just like, this is accessibility. This is not a creative design. It's not like a creative solution. It can, of course, be as well, if you have accessibility in the game itself. We talked about the difference between game and options. So yeah, but go into sources. There is a really good source called game accessibility guidelines.com, gameaccessibilityguidelines.com, and then give you a long list of everything you can add with examples of other games, how they're added it. And that means that is sort of a precedence of how we do it and can make it easier for your end users to know what they're supposed to be looking for.
Yeah. Okay, great. And so, like you're saying with the buttons, you'd rather have, even if it's just using 2 buttons, but because they never conflict in the 6 different situations, rather than putting stuff on triggers just for the sake of it.
Yeah, I do something when I do reviews. I count out how many buttons you need to use on a keyboard and versus a controller, or if they have an easy setup. Because for some people, if they say I overuse my arm and I can't use my right arm or left arm that day. Okay, I have 2 feet. Those they don't move as fast as my thumb can be able to move. So then it's nice for me to say if okay, can I have an X button do 2 different things? Then the game hasn't. It's annoying then if I go in and start button remapping and it says, no, you can't do that because this is confirming in menu and jumping in the game. And I'm just like, but those will never happen at the same time. So why can't I do that? And then I can't play the game because it's too many buttons I need to do. And my setup is just, I can do it, but it will be too complicated, like playing drums with my feet. And yeah.
Okay. But do you do that a lot then, of sort of remapping multiple times throughout a playthrough? Does it help to have separate slots that you're changing versus just one thing? Or
so what is good with the Xbox Adaptive Controller, which I sadly don't have here right now, is that it has presets. So I just there is a little button with 4 levels, and I just push it to change things. Okay. So I can preset like my Xbox Adaptive Controller to be like A, B, X in one setting and A, B, Y in one setting, or back triggers in another setting. And then I can just easily toggle between those 3. So for me, it's not a problem. That is a really good thing with the Xbox Adaptive Controller. But then again, I prefer having a one setup per game and not having to have a multiple setup per game, because then, yeah, you only have 4 presets, so, or save profile or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah. Okay. No, that makes sense then. So do you find that there's a most frustrating thing about playing video games for you?
What it is you think about?
Yeah, so what you find most frustrating, I guess, when you're trying to play games?
It is like the unnecessary things. Again, it's all about like, game is a barriers. You're supposed to go to A to B with a barrier. That barrier being fighting a boss, doing a race, picking up, solving a quest, solving a puzzle, something. And then it's just an unnecessary thing. Like having quick time events where quick time events doesn't add anything. So it's just like, okay, well, I'm going to lose now. Having quick time events that give you such a big butterfly effect or having such a big consequences, and my brain just can't do them. I literally cannot do them all the time. And then just like, oh, thanks, I've played it for 28 hours and now my whole gameplay is ruined. Things like that is often the small things that can just tip the whole boat, especially if it comes later in game and there is no way for me to turn it off. Those are the things that can annoy me because it reminds me of the limitations I have compared to others. Yes, I think those are the most things. It comes into what I'm talking about with like all the things I need. And then if I come far into the game and just beat a barrier that is impossible for me to get over. And just like, okay, I won't see the ending. Some games even have this. I was going to say illegal. This is not illegal, but they lock the ending out if you're on easy mode. That is just. I feel like they're spitting on me. It's just like, get good, but it's just like, I can't. I wish I could. I wish every day that I could be healthy. I'm not. It's just my reality. So let me just have fun like everybody else.
Yeah, no, that's really fair. So no, thank you for highlighting and sharing that. I guess now as sort of as you're playing games, I guess what's the usual type of genre, I guess, that you try and tend to play?
I play everything. I am like I am an all-rounder. The only thing I don't play, I think, is like first-person shooters and sports game. But I have dabbled into them as well. I'm like a bit like, if the game, it's bad to say, but like if a game has hype, I want to try it. I'm like somebody working in marketing's best customer ever. They make hype and I was just like, oh, I want to try this. But mostly I think I do like single player games, a lot of indie games, a lot of games where I can pause. It isn't like the biggest stop for me for if I pause the game, that's okay. Play a lot of cozy games, play a lot of games that looks different, say Dave the Diver, Dredge, Subnautica. Now it sounds like I only play water games, but yeah, I enjoy the Nintendo Switch games, even though they are sadly rarely accessible for me. And I see somebody in chat asking me what my favorite game is. And now, if anybody in chat have heard about this game, please let me know. But my favorite game ever is Tomba or Tombi, depending on where in the world you are. And that is a game from 1998, and that's my favorite game ever. And oh, somebody has, yes, but it's a small game from Japan, and almost nobody have it. If they didn't get the demo discs in the magazines you did when you were a kid, that is where I found it for the first time. But I think my favorite game for this year has to be Dredge. Dredge is amazing in the way they're relying story. Videoverse, if somebody are from the era of starting internet in like 2000s or 2006 and want to have like going back to that time, Videoverse is a wonderful game. And also yeah, I do a lot of RPG as well. Those are really, really good. Those are really, really good. So yeah, there is Tomba in chat. Tomba. It's a old school game. Maybe I'm a bit stuck in my youth. I like games. I played Sea of Stars the other day, which is an old school RPG. But yeah, I eat a bit of everything, because like when Final Fantasy came out, I played all of that. When I had a goal on stream once, I played 2-player, 1 controller with my fiance, Dark Souls 3. So I do it all. I find just like fun and enjoyment with games in general.
Yeah, no, it's great. And I suppose, so we've touched a little bit on like getting accessibility in the game. Is sort of representation within games as well something that is important for you?
Yes, if anybody wants to try Videoverse or have had chronic illness, somebody who's chronic illness, that is an extremely good representation. It feels nice though. It is. I remember I played Unboxing. Is that the moving game? The really cute, slow game. You're just supposed to move from one place to another. You pack down or you pack up your apartment every time you move somewhere, and you got told a story. Unpacking, thank you. You get told a story, and I remember sitting there, and I actually get a bit emotional talking about it, because for the first time in my life, somebody having a cane, medication, and like a splint they had to use on their arm was just as normal as packing out toilet paper and clothing and your diploma and your like gaming console. And I started bawling out my eyes. And a lot of people who were disabled and chronically ill in my chat said that they started crying as well. Because for once in my life, I was as normal. My experience in life was as normal as everybody else's experience. And I didn't think that was so important for me until I actually experienced this. Especially when you packed out a cane, you put it in the umbrella stand, which I used to do before when I needed a cane due to pain in my feet. And I was just like, that just felt, because she was supposed to be young as well. And I'm just like, what? I'm not a granny, 80 years old, being laughed at in a game. This is really cool. This is really, really cool.
Wow, so it's just like the little things that can just sort of help and sort of
It's the normally making it normal. It's like, so a lot of people, I always, when I do public speaking, and I say 20 to 25% of all of humanity have a disability, and people go like, no, I can't see anybody in here. And I was just like, excuse me, how many of us in here has contact lenses or glasses? That is a loss of an ability. You might not look yourself as a disabled people. I'm not going to say anybody has to call themselves anything, but you have a loss of an ability. But you have a mobility aid for your eyes. You have a aid for your eyes to be able to perceive the world better. And that is so normal in games. And then for me to have then a cane, which is so stigmatized, or a wheelchair or medication, which is so stigmatized, be as normal as packing out glasses was amazing. It was nothing I've ever experienced before. So it is sort of the thing I hope we one day will come to a place where having a cane or being young and ill is as normal as just like being young and wearing glasses, like a lot of us do. So yeah.
Okay. No, that's really great said. So I guess like in this call we have lots of different people from disciplines and levels at IO. I guess if there's one big thing you'd maybe want either everyone to take away about accessibility, or like management to take away from about accessibility, is there anything you'd want us to?
Ooh, this is hard, but be curious, be understandable, and don't be afraid to ask. Like, I'm not saying go to a colleague and ask, hey, I see you do this, why are you doing this? But like, ask the bigger question online. Like, do you have Twitter? Ask if any of your gamers have like do anybody have a good story to tell about it? Because we are so used to be forgotten, shunned away from society, and just asked to never be an embarrassment for something we cannot control. So just like, let us know that we are allowed to be there. Let us know that we are as general a gamer as anybody else. And also management that is a bit can't, as I said, don't go ask people if they're disabled. But like, understand that what you experience in life is like having like the horses has blinders. You experience your life in quite like a field that is just your view of the world. Understand that everybody has these blinders, but they show them different things in life. So just because you find it easy to take the bus to work, or you find it easy to just go up the stairs, or you find it easy to just not do that or this, that isn't reality for everyone. It's different for all of us, and that is okay. If we just understand that, it makes a better workplace and a gaming world in general.
Yeah, no, it's really well said. Sort of just, I think that's kind of been the hope with these calls as well. Really, is to get those perspectives, like I said, because we all here have our own blinders of who maybe have a picture in our head of what everyone thinks a gamer is, So I know, like for me, a couple of years ago, if I was to think of a gamer, I'd think of someone me just sitting on my couch playing with a controller. But sort of talking with you and with other consultants, like, oh no, there's like gamers can play in so many different ways that I'd never imagined. And so this has been really amazing to hear about these different perspectives.
Yeah, and it is like I have a lot of that. Like, don't be embarrassed for having these questions, because I promise every single one sitting in here with a question, somebody has asked me that question. I don't have numbers on how many times I post to Twitter or TikTok or Instagram and say, hi, I'm a disabled gamer, and people go, where's your wheelchair? Because we have limited knowledge, and that is okay. But we are a lot of people who try to make it our job to show you guys that some of us look like this, some of us you can see we're blind, some of us you can see sit in a wheelchair, some of us you could never point us out that we're disabled if you walk down the street. And we are all as gamers as everybody else who wants to play a game. Yeah.
Amazing. Yeah. I mean, I guess the chat is open in case anybody else has any questions that they want to run by. But I guess, is there anything we should have asked or that you like to ask that we haven't?
Oh, you have asked a lot of good questions. You have done your homework. I like that. No, I don't think so. I think I can give some sources then. Like, if somebody have any questions, ask in chat. Like, that is why I'm here, ask. But if you want to learn more, I can give you some sources. So I said gameaccessibilityguidelines.com. Brilliant way. It's all put up in like easy to add, hard, mediocre to add, or middle, hard to add, and hard to add. And those are really good. We have something called Game Accessibility Conference, which is twice a year. And all of those talks are available for free on YouTube. That is also free to join if you're online. And yeah, some questions. As I see somebody said about the Xbox adaptive controller. I always wonder if it could be a good option in general, even when not applied directly for accessibility. Do you know anyone who has tried it outside accessibility and then I just use it now as a dedicated controller? So you can technically say that I am sometimes that person, because less I need it when I'm having a bad time, but like when I have a good time, it's just easy. I use it also sometimes because I have some pedals I modify into just have clicks on my mouse because I edit. And there's sometimes, because I'll show you guys, I have a split keyboard. This is for my hands. So this is how my keyboard looks, right? It's split.
Yeah.
So you can imagine when I then edit, and you often use your right side when you edit, but I prefer using my left hand. So I've macroed into making my left half of my keyboard work, but then some things I just have on my foot. So I just tap it on my foot, just like have like a, yeah. I think it's a really good question, because accessibility can also just be comfort. We have a saying, it's called the cut curb effect. It says that if you go on a pavement, right, or a walkway where pedestrians can walk, they have like this little cut down in the walkway, where it's supposed to be for wheelchair users to get off the pavement or sidewalk without having to have a little jump. But all of us use it. I use it when I bicycle. If you have a stroller or pram with a kid, you use it. Skateboard, delivering. Accessibility it's made for us to help everyone. Gaming is for everyone, accessibility everyone. If you just one day is just like, I'm tired and I want to see my character better on the screen, just turn on the outliner. Like, it should be for everyone. And that with just comfort, I know a lot of people use it. Like, the more like text, a subtitle, I think, and most people use it. Most of us can understand and hear okay, but we still decide just using subtitles. So yeah. And do you have any games you found accessible that would surprise us? I was once told that Mortal Kombat is accessible, for example, which I never news to me. Oh, that is a good one. I do a lot of these things. So that would surprise you. No, because everybody have heard of like God of War. We have heard about Last of Us. Like those are like the staples. But so many indie games are accessible. I often say that in the gaming world, we should never look down of the indie world, indie games or AAA games, because these are just two different ways of adding accessibility. The AAA, you look with it's the elephant versus the mouse. The elephant are the big AAA studios with big power, cultural impact, and when they do a change, they make a change in the system. So Last of Us added high contrast mode, which is when you can play it when you have extremely reduced eyesight by having high contrast on the screen and making you, the enemy, and items 3 different colors, and nothing else have color, so you just easily can play it. So that made that God of War Ragnarok added it, so you had a industry change. But indie games are so small, one person can do add like decisions like this. So if you ask them, hey, can you do this, can you do that, it just like they can often add it. But like you can play Sea of Thieves if you're blind. I think that one is cool. I think that one's always really, really cool. You can yeah. Yeah. I think the most things that shocked me the most was I realized the Switch has auto zoom. Nintendo, the most inaccessible company, has double auto zoom on their controller. I learned that from somebody on my comment section saying it. Cocoon has an awesome accessibility mode. That's cool. All the talks from Game Accessibility Conference Europe 2023 and the website Elisabeth mentioned, I think. Yes. Game accessibility guidelines. Yes, that one is really, really good.
Perfect. Yeah, well, I guess is no questions. I guess a final maybe question for you. I saw sort of on your page, you call your Twitch followers the Puppy Gang. I was curious where it came from.
Oh my god. Yes. Okay, so I have a dog. You might oh, she lost. You saw maybe a black shadow going around here. When I started streaming, she was just a little puppy. And then it was before I started talking about accessibility, and I was like, oh, I need to brand myself something weird. And I was like, oh yeah, we're the puppy gang. And that just sticked with us. We don't have anything of that branding almost left. But then it was just like, no, my followers were just like, no, we want to be in the puppy gang. I don't know. We like it here. And so we just continue that. We should be something cool now, like the Kane crew or something like that. But it's just old from before I started talking about accessibility. I was yeah, my dog she is the most lovely dog, but as all dogs, she can be a little devil. So she has interrupted my streams by just standing and barking and being annoying so many times that she's just part of the stream now.
That's amazing. I love it. I think you should definitely keep it as Puppy Gang. I think it sounds amazing. But yeah, thank you. And then yeah, just coming from Antonin, just saying yeah, it's because it's this is open for everyone. So as designers, it's been great to hear your needs and thoughts. But yeah, no, thank you so much for speaking with us. It's really appreciated hearing from you and getting your feedback and everything. So thank you.
Yeah, and if anybody have like any questions, they can always reach out, ask questions, and look if you have like more specific things. I make a lot of TikToks about like where I just show things because it's just like to up the knowledge and just like normalize it for everyone. Just like this is what things can do and this is cool because of that. So yeah. Oh god, because I remembered now. Minecraft is a really, really cool accessibility thing. You can have a box up to show you where the monsters come from and make sound from. That is cool. I'm making a movie about it right now. You can have like a little box that shows like skeleton and points to the left if the skeleton is to your left and make a skeleton noise. Really cool. Yeah. But yes, sorry about that.
No, it's always great to know. It's something we can combine. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you so much for asking me to be here today. And if yes, David knows what I'm talking about. That's cool. Yes, it's really, really cool. And yeah, if anybody have any questions or want to learn more about accessibility, you can find me on the name Arevia.
Amazing. Thank you so much. Hope you have a lovely rest of your day. And thank you again for taking the time.
Thank you so much for having me. Bye, everyone.